Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter is live in Minneapolis. We're also joined by DeWitt Lacy. He is a civil rights attorney and former criminal defense attorney. Thank you so much for DeWitt for being with me this evening.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Michael. Glad to be here.
All right, fantastic. Now, Chanley, let me start with you. You know, I'm actually glad that this young man got on the jury. He seems a little bit of a departure from what we've seen so far. He's a young man. He's a route driver. I'm feeling like as this jury shapes up, it really is becoming representative of the community, which is important.
It's super important, and especially in this case. And what we've seen of the pool of jurors who've been coming in, even the ones that have been dismissed for cause or stricken for other reasons, overall it's pretty diverse as far as male, female, ethnicity, age, background. We've seen everyone from 19-year-old the other day all the way up to probably 60s or 70s today. So again, I think it's super important for attorneys to have that in the back of their mind, that it's a jury that reflects a jury of the peers and representative of Hennepin County here. And this was a juror who seemed confident in his answers and was able to really offer some honesty as far as what he felt about, like we just played, about officers' actions being second guessed. He felt that it was strong that they needed to be second guessed. He also had an interesting comment about how if George Floyd hadn't resisted, it wouldn't have ended the way that it ended. So again, the trend continues where these jurors that are seated on the jury are offering answers that may bode well for both the defense and the prosecution.
Now, DeWitt Lacy, if you're completely anti-police, perhaps that statement by that young man might be cause for concern. But in essence, it's a relatively neutral comment, because when you look at the facts and the way things went down, had George Floyd not responded the way he did, for whatever reason he responded the way he did, perhaps it would not have happened.
I think of it as a very neutral comment myself, Michael. And that taken in the context of the other comments that this juror made, I think might be more troubling for the defense, especially given the example that we just showed where the defense attorney talks about, the difference in split-second decisions versus decisions where someone actually has time to think about and deliberate about making a criminal act. I mean, that is exactly the issue here, where we have Chauvin, who had 8 minutes and 46 seconds to think about what he was doing and whether or not it was the right thing, even when one of his other officers asked him, "Are you sure that we should be doing this?" So I don't know that the comment of the juror should be taken out of that context.
Yeah, not only were the other officers, we had a bunch of bystanders asking as well, who will be testifying in this case. And DeWitt, one more quick question for you. How important is it, within the context of everything that's gone on around this case, that this jury be truly representative, not only of the community, but really have a strong sort of set of people of color? Is that truly important here, or do you think that doesn't matter?
I think it does matter. Because, look, first of all, as Chanley said, look, you want the jury to reflect the county, right, and the makeup of the county. Hennepin County, which is about 74% white, 14% African-American, you expect the jury to reflect somewhere around the same. And if it didn't, I think you would have a lot of criticism being launched at the court, and questioning the legitimacy of the decisions and or the trial in general. And that's not what this court wants to do. They want to get it right because they know the eyes of the world are on them. So I think it is very important that the jury reflect the makeup of the county ethnically.
I would have to agree. Now, there was another juror today, number 37, who was heart-wrenching. I mean, I could hear her wanting to do her civic duty, wanting to do the right thing, but she just had very strong feelings about this entire incident and the video as she watched it. Let's take a quick listen, and I'll have some questions.
Watching his face as he kneeled on someone's neck, he looked so hateful. Can you explain what you mean by that? Whose face? What are you talking about?
The officer who kneeled into George Floyd's neck, just watching that.
You're
watching the video, looking at his face.
Looking at Mr. Chauvin's face?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure. And you felt that he had a hateful look on his face?
Yes.
And your feelings towards Mr. Floyd were neutral because you don't know Mr. Floyd or anything about him?
Correct.
Now, Chanley, when she was questioned, she got to the point where they were asking her, could you put aside your feelings? She thought a conviction would be justice in this case. And they said, well, you know, if it came to the point where the evidence showed that he wasn't guilty, could you vote not guilty? She just wasn't strong enough in saying no. I think she really felt in her heart, right, that a conviction is what she would want in this case for justice.
Yeah, she at one point said, I would not like that verdict, even though she felt that she could possibly consider it. One thing that stood out to me, and as we're showing those, that B-roll, the video, pictures of Derek Chauvin, reminded me that she was one of the first to comment about the look on Chauvin's face when she watched the video. Another juror also said that later today as well, that she called it the way hateful. He looked hateful is what she said in the video, and that really caused her even more emotional reaction. And we see the attorneys, both the defense and the prosecution, the defense really trying to draw out the distinguishing factor of emotion of the video for the actual facts of the case, and the prosecution as well. Can you set aside, of course this video causes emotion, of course you can't unsee this video, but can you set aside any of those emotional reactions and look at the facts in the law and be fair and impartial? And she just couldn't get there today.
Yeah, she just could not get there. She wanted to. At least that's the sense I got from listening to her. Now, DeWitt, here's one of the issues I have with this. I think when we talk about getting this diverse jury, right, we already know the statistics, as you mentioned, 74% white, 14% black, in that range. And when you talk about people who are going to respond to that video the way she did, they're going to be people of color. Not that white folks wouldn't, or non-people of color wouldn't respond that way, but you can pretty much bet that a lot of people of color looking at that might have that kind of response, which is, I think, going to make it even more difficult to find a jury with enough people of color to satisfy what we talked about earlier, that need to make sure that diversity is on this jury.
I think that's a fair critique, Michael. You know, definitely those are points that the defense will want to, I guess, make for many African Americans who may be sat on the jury or who are potential jurors. However, we do have to remember the Batson's challenge, right? You know, you can't just strike somebody just because they're African American. And even if they do believe that some police may act hateful, and maybe even if they saw something in the face of Derek Chauvin that was hateful, you know, I've seen it time and time again where judges will rehabilitate not witnesses, but potential jurors. And that's not what Judge Cahill seems to be doing here, but certainly there's the likelihood that could happen down the line should the juror selection start going a little bit slower than it is right now.
All right, well, we'll have to wait and see. DeWitt, Chanley, please stand by. We're going to take a break right now. And today, only one juror was chosen. We'll focus on who he is and